You guys are here today getting literal private access to the same stuff that I charge 5K per client for. Today, what we are going to cover today, right, is reverse engineering your ICP so that you can book as many sales opportunities as possible. You need to understand that last week we went deep on building your ideal customer profile. We talked about how not every single business within one specific space is the same. For example, when I go and search up roofers near me, the roofer that comes up in first place is not going to be the same roofer that has the same problems as what comes in last place. The roofer that comes up in first place is not going to have the same problems as the roofer that comes up in last place. And when you decide on the niche that you are working with, when you decide who you want to actually go and target, you need to understand that not every single person within that space is going to have the problem that you are trying to solve. Not every single person in that space is even going to find you valuable, and that's okay. When you say you want to work with roofers, when you say you want to work with real estate agents, when you say you want to work with whoever it may be, you need to understand that you are not trying to work with every single person within that specific niche. You are trying to work with a select amount of people within that space who you can resonate with, who you can actually who they feel as if you are specifically talking to them. And that's what the whole point of an ICP is. When you're creating your ideal customer profile, you want to make sure that the person you are trying to target feels as if your messaging, your style, everything you are doing is specifically tailored to them. And anyone who doesn't meet your ICP, anyone who doesn't resonate with what you're putting out there, naturally they are going to filter themselves out anyways, which is okay. You do not want to work with every single person in one specific space. You want to help a very select amount of people with what you do. Because truth is, your service isn't going to be valuable to every single person. Not every single person is going to think that you can get them a result, and not every single person, right, is worth working with in the first place. When you have an ICP, when you are very clear on who you are trying to work with, the problem you are going to solve for them, and how you are going to solve it, not only do you resonate with the market so on a deeper level, but everything else improves as a byproduct. Your fulfillment improves as a byproduct. When you're working with people who understand the process, when you're working with people who actually think that what you are doing is valuable, who actually think that the problems you are solving are helping them, when you work with these kinds of people, everything improves. You're able to get your clients results faster, easier, quicker. It's so much easier for you to fulfill on your clients and build leverage, build case studies. And that is the whole point of an ICP. Inside of a market, there's so many different businesses, right? There's someone in first place, there's someone in second place, there's someone in last place. And all of these different businesses, they have different problems, they have different needs, and they have different buying behaviors. They have different seasons. In business, there are seasons in terms of what you want, what you need, what you buy, what you shouldn't buy, even though they're in the same industry, right? Even though you're targeting roofers, real estate agents, plumbers, whoever it may be, even though the people you are targeting are within the same industry, they're all trying to serve the same customers. They're all trying to reach the same people. Of course, they are. They have completely different pain points. They have completely different problems. Yes, they're trying to target the same exact customers. We know this, but they don't all have the same problems. That person that comes up in first place when you search up roofers near me, that person that comes up in first place, they are probably the most likely business that is getting the most amount of inbound calls, the most likely business that is getting people coming to them directly. They might not necessarily have a prospecting issue, they might not necessarily have a lead issue. So you going to that business and trying to offer them a solution where, hey, we're going to bring you 5 jobs within the next 30 days or 5 jobs within the next 90 days, that might not be so valuable to them. They might get 50 people a day that call them. So 5 jobs in 30 days, 5 jobs in 90 days, to them, that's not very valuable. Whereas if we go and approach that business that is in last place, that barely gets any calls from anybody, their phone is never ringing. They constantly have to refer to going back to dinosaur methods, knocking on people's doors, leaving mailers, ending up on newspapers. The people that have to refer to those kinds of methods, don't you think that they would find our service so much more rewarding for them? Don't you think that they would find what we do so much more valuable to them? And that's the whole point. When I have a specific offer, when I have a specific service that I'm trying to deliver to the marketplace, I understand that service and that offer is not catered to work for everybody and anybody. It's catered to work with that specific portion of the market. Those people who are in last place, those people who barely get any leads calling them, those people who have no methods of marketing. They go around knocking on people's doors, they go around sending out mailers, ending up on newspapers. Those are my ideal customer. Those people meet the profile of person that I am trying to target, because those people are more likely to find me valuable. They're more likely to be over the moon. Even if I get them one booked call, even if I get them one booked job, they're going to be over the moon because they're not used to that. And if you're able to get these kinds of people business, and if you're able to understand, right, just like I've described I gave you guys a very brief description of what my ideal customer profile looks like. When you are able to identify that, when you are able to get very clear on that, when you are able to build a service that resonates around these people, everything as a byproduct improves. Your delivery, your fulfillment, your leverage, your case studies, your relationship with your clients, everything improves. And this applies to every single industry. It doesn't matter who you're trying to target. It doesn't matter if it's a HVAC company, it doesn't matter if it's a roofer, if it's a real estate agent, if it's a dentist. It doesn't matter who this is. It doesn't matter who you are trying to target or what business you are trying to target. At the end of the day, you need to get crystal clear on your ICP. You need to make sure your messaging becomes razor sharp to the people that you are trying to target, a specific subsection in the market, if you will. A subsection within the market. It's easy to say you want to work with dentists. Who is your actual ideal customer profile? Dentists who are getting less than 5 inbound leads a day, dentists who get less than 5 calls a day, dentists who are not currently running ads, dentists who have to refer to old methods of marketing like paying for newsletter articles. Do you see how I'm getting more and more specific now about the types of people that I'm trying to target and the types of problems that these people have? When I'm able to understand intrinsically the problems that the people have that I'm trying to target, what does that mean? It means that I'm able to offer them a solution that is catered, right, to deal with those problems. When you jump on the call with these people and you can express yourself like, hey, I know your problems. I know what you're going through. I know the issues that you're facing in your business, and I know exactly how to solve it. When you're able to present yourself in that way, people like you so much more. They trust you so much more, and they think you are the authority. Think of it in the opposite. Think of it in the opposite when you jump on a call with someone. You have a specific service, right, that you're delivering. You're running ads, or you've built a voice AI agent that does outbound calls, whatever it may be. But what you've built is just tailored to anybody and everybody. You jump on the calls. It's like, yeah, we work with dentists, and yeah, this is great because it's going to make sure you don't miss out on any calls. It's going to make sure that you get 1 or 2 inbound leads a day. Yada yada yada. You have the same pitch for every single person that you work with. You need to understand, does every single person have the same problem? Does every single person think you're going to be valuable? Does every single person need the same thing that you are offering? No. So, when you are able to become very specific, then your messaging automatically is going to disqualify the people that your don't fit your profile. If someone doesn't fit your ICP, if a business doesn't fit your ICP, no problem at all. You don't want to work with people that don't fit your ICP. You don't want to make compromises. You don't want to work with anybody who does not specifically tailor to the types of people that you are trying to target. And when your messaging is short, when you've got clarity, when you understand exactly who you are working with, when you understand the exact problems that they are having, and when you talk directly to them, you're cutting through the market like butter. And last week, I showed you exactly how to research, how to build that ICP document, how to take what we done in day one of the 6 day challenge, building that who, that how, that what document, taking that as a basic framework, as the spine to then go deeper and actually build out an ICP. Now you should have a solid draft, right? I'm hoping every single one of you on here today has already got a solid draft that you have gone and mapped out. Today, we're taking it to the next level. Today, we are taking it to the next level. Today, we are understanding okay, we know exactly who we're working with, we know what problems they have, we know how and what we are going to do to solve those problems. How do we get them into our calendar? How do we sign clients? We're not wasting any more time anymore. From today, the pace is going to pick up so much. We're going to be moving at a very, very fast pace. And if you are not implementing the things we cover on these calls, if you are not taking action on what we cover on these calls, you are going to get left behind and we are not going to come back and revisit these modules. So it is very, very important from today, here on out, bygones are bygones. If you haven't set up your systems yet, if you haven't done the actions from the last few calls, it is what it is. From today, right? From today, we turn a new page and we implement, we take action. Now, today's focus is going to be reverse engineering how to reach your ICP. You know who your ICP is, right? Now you need to figure out how to actually get in front of them. And there's so many different methods. You can cold call people, you can cold email people, you can SMS people, you can use the LinkedIn automation I gave you guys, you can run Facebook ads, right? You can send direct mail. You can literally, there's so many different things you can do to try and get someone into your calendar. There's 100 different ways to skin a cat. But not every single way is going to be suited for different ICPs. One specific way isn't going to, if you have a ton of success cold calling people and you're cold calling real estate agents, for example, that might not necessarily make sense for dentists to have gatekeepers who you're not necessarily getting directly through to the decision makers for. One specific way of actually getting someone into your calendar isn't, it's not a one shoe fits all type of situation, which is what I'm trying to get at today. Because last week, right, on our last call that we covered, without naming any names, we had a question which really sparked an idea in my head and made me want to go so much deeper on this topic. Last week, we covered an issue, right? Let me give you guys a real example where last week someone asked about using the LinkedIn automation to scrape job listings for roofers that are hiring receptionists and then emailing them with an offer. In theory, it sounds great, right? We're going to be applying to 300 jobs a day. We're going to be sending 300 emails a day. And we built an automation that's going to do all of the work for us. And we just literally click a button, one, two, three, off we go. It sounds great, right? It sounds, in theory, it sounds like it will do the job. But really and truly, I think it's kind of backwards. When we actually broke it down last week on the call, what did we establish? Let's think about firstly who are roofers? What are the demographics? What types of behaviors do roofers have? We know they're in a hyper aggressive industry. These guys are most likely males, right? I've never in my life, maybe you guys can add some input in here, but in my life, I've never seen a woman that owns a roofing business. It's a hyper aggressive industry. It's dominated by males, right? They're doing physical hands on work every single day. They're not doing any sexy work. They're getting their hands dirty day in and day out. These guys are hyper aggressive. They're doing work that isn't necessarily sexy. Do these guys give you the impression that they are sitting on their desk all day, going through emails from random people spamming them with offers? Do they give you that impression? Can you visualize in your head that a roofer who literally who gets his hands dirty all day for a living, who does not do any sexy kind of work, who barely probably even knows how to work an email in the first place, who's likely going to be over the years of 40 years old, 40 plus years old, Does that person give you the impression that they are sitting on their desk going back and forth and replying to people on emails? I don't think so. I can't visualize that. I don't think that emails would necessarily be a good fit to meet these people where they are. And what do I mean by meeting these people where they are? These guys are on ladders, on roofs, driving between job sites. They're not checking LinkedIn. They're not reading cold emails. They're not waiting for someone to make them an offer via email. And when we go even deeper into that, the next thing I would do to challenge that also is, if there is a roofing company, if there is a roofing company that is hiring a receptionist and they're advertising for this job on LinkedIn, is that the type of company that we want to work with in the first place? Is that a company that meets our ideal customer profile? It might be. But for me, I know that I'm not trying to work with massive companies that are hiring receptionists that have the budgets to be dedicating towards LinkedIn job posts, dedicating towards hiring a receptionist. Likeliness is that type of company, they probably already got a couple of employees. They've probably already built an established business. Because let's face it, most roofers, right, who are struggling, they don't have receptionists. They just literally have guys on the ground who are completing the manual labor. They don't have receptionists. So, what does that tell us about a business that is hiring one? A business that is hiring one or looking for someone to come in as a receptionist, what does that tell us? That person likely doesn't have a problem with getting more book jobs. And does our offer of 5 book jobs in 30 days, 90 days, would those types of businesses, would they see that offer as valuable as someone else who barely gets any book jobs, who doesn't have a receptionist, who just has guys on the ground who are completing the work? I don't think so. And that's why the ICP is so important. Because when you have that ICP, when you understand who you are trying to work with, when you understand the types of problems your ICP has, you can then look at things like this even deeper. If someone's hiring for a receptionist on LinkedIn, why the hell would they want to work with me? Why the hell would I use LinkedIn as a way to try and reach out with them? Why the hell would I send emails if I know that they're not even sitting on their emails? They're not even looking at their emails. They don't even know what an email is. So, where do they do business? The ICP that I'm targeting, roofers who barely get any inbound leads, who are going around knocking on doors, who have to go into news articles. They have to refer back to the dinosaur ages to try and get any kind of business. Where do they do business? Where does their business come from? Comes from over the phone. They are used to getting referrals. They get phone calls. They get text messages. That's where 90% of their business comes from. 90% of their business comes from that small device right there that sits in their pocket. They are not looking at their emails. So if we know, right, that they are operating from their phone, if we know that 90% of their business comes from literally the handheld device that sits in their pocket, why the hell would I not just try to call them? Why would I not try to text them? Why would I not meet them where they are? I will meet them where they are. If I know that they are going to be spending a majority of their time literally on their phone, because that's where 90% of their business comes from, why would I not meet them there? Why would I try to meet them at a destination where they're not even going to be? Why would I try to meet them on emails if they're not even on their emails? Why would I not try to meet them on their phone where they're spending 90% of their time? Because that's where 90% of their business comes from. It's like trying to sell stuff, right? It's like trying to sell to fish by standing on the beach and yelling. You go to where the fish are. You don't stand on the beach, throw out your fishing line and try to reel the fish in from the beach while you're sitting in the sand. You go out to shore, right? You go into the ocean. You cast your line in the place where the fish are, right? In the place where the fish are. If you know that roofers are going to be spending a majority of their time on their phones because that's where all their business comes from, anyways, then that's exactly where you go. You don't go to emails if you know that they're not on their emails. You don't go to emails if you know that they're not going to even look at that stuff. You're just wasting your time and your energy. And it doesn't matter how cool the automation is, it doesn't matter how sexy the automation is. This stuff is just there, right? Automation, the only purpose of it And the only way it becomes valuable is if it can actually increase the result that you are getting, anyways. If you are getting a result without the automation, the only purpose of the automation itself is to scale it and get 10 times, 20 times, 30 times the result that you wouldn't be able to do manually. Now, if you have an automation set up just for the sake of it, just because it's a cool thing to do, it's an attractive thing to do, and you don't really have to do any work and it just does it all for you, that's just an excuse. It's just an excuse to avoid the work that you should be doing. Go to where the fish are. You have a strategic advantage. When you understand where your ICP operates, you have a strategic advantage. Roofers, right? If we know they live on their phones, then we're going to call them, we're going to text them. That's exactly what we do. We meet them where they already are, not where you want them to be. Just because you want them to be responding to your emails, to be responding to your job applications, doesn't mean that that's where they are. You always need to operate in the mind of, what would my customer do? What would my ICP do? Where are they? Where can I meet them? Where is the best point for me to get these people into my calendar? Now, you need to eliminate the ego. You need to eliminate the ego. This is where so many people screw up. They get attached, right, to one method because it's automated, because it's scalable, because it's sexy, because it's the thing that everyone else is doing. Let me be very, very clear. If it doesn't book calls, it's worthless. I don't care how automated it is. I don't care how cool it is. I don't care if it works while you sleep. If it doesn't get you clients, it is garbage. Cold calling, right? It's not beneath you. You are not above the work. You are not above the work. Cold texting isn't outdated. Manual outreach isn't too much work. Whatever works for your ICP is what you do. And this is what we are moving on to now. If you know that you are competing against a whole bunch of other people who are just building all these fancy automations that get zero results, but you are able to understand, I want to build something that's actually valuable, that actually gets me results, that actually books calls in my calendars, and actually gets me clients. If you're able to put your ego to the side, pick up the phone and call people, send text messages to people, message people on Facebook groups, when you are able to put your ego to the side, understand where your ICP is actually hanging out, go to the place that they are hanging out, cast your fishing line, and start to fish, then you will get results. It's simple. Everyone else is doing the opposite. Nowadays, everyone is telling you to do all these sexy things like, hey, just use a voice agent to just call 1,000 people a day. Yeah, right, buddy. Just use a automation to go and scrape 100 jobs, 300 jobs a day, and apply to those 300 jobs a day. I I'm the one, right, that gave you guys this automation. I'm the one that's now critiquing it. I'm the one that's now telling you this automation isn't made for every single person. This automation, yeah, if it matches the ICP, if you're trying to work with larger businesses that have higher budgets, that already have a couple of employees, that you're going to deliver a completely different service to, by all means, go for it. But most of you on this call here today, you have an offer where it's, we're going to help you get more clients. We're going to help you make more money. That's a majority of your guys' offer here today. And if that's the case, then these businesses that are advertising for jobs on LinkedIn, these are not the types of businesses that you should be targeting in the first place. You need to understand what is a system then that is going to get me in front of my ICP, that is going to actually allow me to book calls, and that is going to allow me to close clients. Now, the framework. We understand our ICP first, then we build the method, and then we scale it. I've critiqued everything we've covered so far, right? I've broken down why it's so important to understand the ICP, what you shouldn't be doing. Now, how should we be doing it then? We know what we shouldn't be doing, so what should we be doing? First things first, we need to understand our ICP's behavior, which is what we already covered. Where do they spend their time, right? How do they get their business? What's their daily routine look like? Actually try to map this stuff out. You need to actually understand the people that you are trying to work with on a much deeper level. Where do they prefer to communicate? What does their typical day look like? What time do they check into the office? What time are they heading for home? You need to understand all of these different types of things, right? For example, roofers. This is a typical day, right, of what a roofer looks like. It's a typical day of what a real estate agent looks like. It's a typical day of what a dentist looks like. There's a difference between all three of these niches. There's a difference between all three of these customer profiles. Each ICP operates completely differently. Now, once we've mapped all of this out, the next thing I want you guys to do is match your method to their behavior. Match your method to what we know or where we know they are spending most of their time. Now you know how your ICP operates, pick the method that matches their behavior. So for roofers, like I said, we're not going to try and meet them on LinkedIn or meet them on cold email. We're going to try and meet them in cold calling. We're going to try and meet them by cold texting them. We're going to try and meet them by sending them direct mail. For real estate agents, where can we meet them? For dentists, where can we meet them? Match the method to the behavior. Understand your ICP, right? Understand where these people spend their time and match the method you are going to use to try and reach out to them to their behaviors. And test it yourself first. Before you automate anything, before you hire anyone, you need to prove the concept. And I think this is why so many beginners stay as beginners and they don't grow their agency. Most people that start an agency, they never even sign one client, not even on a free trial. Most people that start an agency, they don't sign a single client because they try to automate, they try to outsource before they've ever even proven that anything works themselves. They don't even know if it works themselves. They don't even know what they're hiring someone for. They don't know how to manage that person. They don't even know what they're automating or whether or not what they're automating even works, and they just do it. You need to start small, right? If, for example, you decide that roofers is the type of person that you want to target, and we've established roofers spend most of their time on the phones, make 50 to 100 cold calls yourself every day. Send 100 text messages yourself or 100 DMs or whatever method you choose. When you understand where these people are, right? Make 100 cold calls a day. Do it yourself because you need to test different scripts, figure out what messaging works, understand the objections these people give you, understand what your ICP actually resonates with. What do they like to hear over the phone? What keeps them on the phone? And how do you refine your offer? Test different scripts, test different ways of saying things. You can't automate something that doesn't work. You can't hire VAs to do something that you haven't proven. Do it manually first, prove that it works, then scale. Once it works, scale it. Once you've proven the method works, you're booking 5 to 10 calls per week, doing it yourself. Now you scale. Now, let's say we're working with roofers, right? I start off by making 50 to 100 cold calls a day myself. I do that for 2 weeks. And over the course of 2 weeks, I'm tracking everything. Okay, this script is working better than the other. This opener works better than the other. This method of conversation works better than the other. The ideal point of me keeping someone on the phone is typically 5 minutes. Once I've got everything tracked down to the macro, now I can hire VAs from the Philippines, from India, from Pakistan, great VAs that don't have heavy, thick accents that can make 100 calls an hour. We were making 100 calls a day. They can make 100 calls an hour. I get 3 to 4 VAs to do this for me. That's 3 to 400 calls per hour. If they're working 8 hours a day, we're doing easily over 5,000 calls a day. Easily, you're booking 20 to 30 calls per week. What I'm showing you guys here, right, is the same method I used myself. If we actually take a look, I've got a whole Google Drive, right, where I trained my own VAs on exactly how I used to do cold calls, exactly how I used to do cold calls, and I trained them on exactly how to replicate exactly what I was doing. If we actually take a look at some of these calls are from like 2023. After I've already proven everything to work myself. Once everything is working myself, then I scale it. Then I bring people in to actually increase the volume I'm doing. Volume negates luck. The biggest mistake is people put their ego over results. Most people fail because they have an ego about their outreach method. I don't want to cold call. It's too much work. I only want to do automated outreach. Cold texting feels spammy. Oh, I don't have time to cold call people. Guess what? Your ego doesn't pay the bills. Your ego is not signing you any clients. Your ego is the exact reason why you've been running an agency for a couple of weeks, for a couple of months, thinking that this shiny object or that shiny object is going to be the thing that saves you, but it's the actual reason why you are stuck where you are today. Results pay the bills. And ultimately, it's painful getting past that point of resistance. Getting past that point of resistance to actually break through and sign your first client is painful. Doing anything in life that is worth doing requires resistance. You're going to be going up against resistance. When you go to the gym, you're not lifting the air, you're lifting weights. And the weights act as resistance for you to grow your muscles, for you to grow in your agency, for you to grow personally, for you to grow in terms of your skill set. You need to go up against resistance. And picking up the phone 50 times a day, 100 times a day, sending a bunch of cold messages manually every single day, it's resistance. It's not fun. It's not sexy work, but it's the thing that gets the result. And the thing that gets the result is the thing that is the most important thing for your business. Whatever gets clients is what you do. There is no best method. There's the method that works for your specific ICP. And here's an example of how I did it. All of you know I used to work with real estate agents. That was the niche that I specifically targeted. I knew that real estate agents want more listings. I understood their behaviors. When I go and search up real estate agents near me, pretty much every single real estate agent on Google My Business, all of them have their own personal cell phone numbers on there. They're all, every single one of them have their own personal cell phone numbers on there. They are not, they are not putting their office number. Most of them, they just use their cell phone number as their business. I started cold calling them. I started texting them for 2 weeks, refined all of my scripts, figured out what worked, and then what did I do? I hired 3 VAs to make 300 cold calls a day. And I've got entire recordings to show you guys on how I exactly trained those VAs. That's it. I didn't use any fancy automation from the start. I didn't build some complex system. I matched my method to my ICP's behavior, proved it worked, and scaled the hell out of it. Got 3 VAs to just do quadruple the amount of volume that I could have ever done myself. Now, your assignments for this week: review your ICP document, answer these questions about your ICP, pick one outreach method for now. Pick one outreach method that matches their behavior and commit to testing it manually for 7 days. Commit to testing it manually for 7 days. Tell me about your results on our next call. From today, the 7 days begins today. From today, begin today, and and when we come back together next week, show me your results. Talk to me about what worked and what didn't work. And if there's any common questions, what if I picked the wrong method? What if I don't want to cold call? Can I test multiple methods at once? This will answer all of those questions that you might have. Now, I'm going to come back and answer any questions that you guys might have. Just raise your hands for me, please, and I'll unmute you. No questions? You guys are making my life easy today. We do have a question. Mike, go for it. You can unmute yourself.
I appreciate the ego.
I can't hear you. I,
The family. Just so yeah, and I definitely did recognize that the emails that I was sending out from the automation, there definitely was a lot of either lack of replies or just probably wasn't the best for workers. What niche, what ICP have you guys noticed that this automation for outreach, the LinkedIn job outreach, has been good for?
Good question. Usually, it's the same for every niche. Think about every single niche and think about every niche that is posting jobs on LinkedIn in the first place. What does it tell you about that business? It tells you that they probably already got a couple of employees, if not that they are in a position to pay an employee um, a couple $1,000 or a couple $100 every single month. So that business isn't necessarily in the phase of having a problem prospecting. That business is probably more so facing a problem of having the right systems, maybe, or if anything, they would need a higher volume of jobs in order for them to actually be impressed with the type of service that you're delivering. So I would say that the LinkedIn automation is probably more so built for businesses where you have an offer and your ICP is specifically built for businesses that are already established, that don't really have a lead generation problem, but kind of have more of a lead fulfillment problem.
Got it. Like an AI receptionist, in other words.
Yeah, but even then, that kind of goes against my philosophy because I don't teach pitching people on an AI receptionist or selling someone an AI receptionist or selling missed calls or text backs and stuff like that. I don't really. That's not my style. So the types of ICPs that I want you guys to be targeting in the first place wouldn't be those types of businesses.
Got it. Got it. And it's mainly because you want to be able to have that customer pay money, and then we can actually. Uh,
You laggy.
selling them tool. Um,
Anyone else whilst we are here? Darren, Lisa, Mansour, everything clear what we covered here today? Awesome. Mansour, all clear? Cool. Then let's wrap this thing up. If everything is clear for everybody, then I guess my life becomes a lot easier. On our next week's call, please make sure you are taking action on what we covered here today. On our next week's call, I want to see the logs of you guys actually implementing what we covered here today, actually going and researching your ICP and implementing a method that is specifically tailored to get your ICP in front of you. And once you've done that, on our next week's call, we are going to be covering what to do when they actually jump on the call with you and how to actually take them through a sales process. If that is all for me, then peace out, everybody. I will see you guys next week.